Shalom, shalom. Giving honor and praise to the creator and the maker of heaven and earth. Want to sit there and go over a couple of things. This is a response to Israelites from the quote-unquote non-messianic side, if you want to put it in those kind of terms. All right, now, if we go, brothers and sisters, to Leviticus chapter 4, verse 1. Yah spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of Yah, concerning things which ought not be done, and shall do against any of them, if the priest that is anointed do sin, according to the sin of the people, then let him bring for his sin, which he hath sinned, a young bullock without blemish unto the Most High for a sin offering. Remember that. It says if the priest who's anointed, if he does a sin, he brings up a bullock. But this is for a sin done in error, right? Let's move on. And if the whole congregation of Israel sin through ignorance, and the thing be hid from the eyes of the assembly, and they have done somewhat against the commandments of the Most High, concerning things which should not be done, and are guilty. When the sin, when they have sinned against it, is known, then the congregation shall offer a young bullock for the sin, and bring them before the tabernacle of the congregation. So it says that if a common person, it says if the whole nation of Israel sinned, in this case, in ignorance, that is to say without knowing, not a high-handed sin, right? They too bring up a young bullock for the sin offering. Let's go to verse 22. When a ruler has sinned and done somewhat through ignorance against the commandments of the Most High his God, concerning things which should not be done, and is guilty, or if his sin which he has sinned come to his knowledge, he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats, a male without blemish. So now we see the priest, he brings a bullock, which is a bull. The congregation of Israel also brings a bull. A ruler, that is to say like a governor, a satrap, a prince, a person that's of rank. If that person who is a ruler sins in ignorance, then they bring up a goat, a male without blemish, as his sin offering. Remember, these for sins done in error. And if any of the common people sin through ignorance, which he doeth somewhat against any of the commandments of the Most High, concerning things which should ought not be done, and be guilty, or if his sin which he hath sinned come to his knowledge, then he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats, a female without blemish, for his sin which he hath sinned. Verse 32. And if he bring a lamb for a sin offering, he shall bring it a female without blemish. And he shall lay his hand on the head of the sin offering, and slay it for a sin offering in a place where they kill the burnt offering. Now this right here from verse 27 and 28 and verse 32 and verse 33 is talking about if the common person, like the regular Gadite, Manassite, Judite, Simeonite, if one of these individuals sin through ignorance, mind you, still, if he brings a goat, he brings up a female without blemish. If a ruler sins, he brings up a male goat without blemish. The common person, on the other hand, if he brings a lamb, he brings a female lamb without blemish. So far we see bullocks, female lambs, female goats, and that's it. Bullocks, female lambs, and male goats, and female goats. That's it, brothers and sisters. A male lamb is not a sacrifice for sin. That's the point. You're not going to read in the Torah where a male lamb is sacrificed as the sin offering. See, there was an order to the way the Most High constructed the sin offerings. And another thing to point out is these are for sins that was done in error. You don't disrespect your parents and then sit there and say, oh, well, I'm going to bring up my sin offering. Can't do that, brothers and sisters. This is why when you go, for instance, if you're out there murdering or if you're out there committing adultery, that's not a sin done in error. You understand? So now, when you go in Psalms chapter 51, the situation where David murdered a man and then he committed adultery, and also in reference with that, he said, if thou desire sacrifice, will I give it. But David knew the law of the Most High. So there is no sin offering. When you go in Psalm 51, there is no sin offering for murder. There is no sin offering for adultery. So that's just between you and your maker at that particular point. So let that be noted and understood. So now, with that being the case, you never read in the Israelite custom where a human was to be for the atonement of the sins of the nation of Israel. As a matter of fact, brothers and sisters, when it comes right down to it, it says that no man can redeem his brother. That's in the book of Psalms chapter 49. So there's a couple of points to let that be noted when they try to say Old Testament Israelites can't say this, that, or the third, or we've been misled, or so forth and so on. Such is not the case. All right, so let that be noted and understood. Now, let's go, brothers and sisters, if we will, to the book of Hosea. We want to go to the book of Hosea chapter 3 so we can gain some understanding concerning this. Because you actually have some people with their made-up term that they call non-messianic, which is not in the scriptures. They will sit there and try to ask, well, what do you do for sacrifices? Got to sit there and wonder about that person, because I got to ask you, what sin do you intend on doing for you to think that you need a sacrifice already in place? The goal is to not sin, ain't it? Ain't we supposed to sit there and be, to the best of our ability, sinless? But yet you're saying that you already have your atonement already slotted for you. You a dangerous individual. That's scary. Hosea chapter 3, verse 1. Then said Yah unto me, go yet love a woman, beloved of her friend, yet an adulteress, according to the love that Yah, according to the love of Yah toward the children of Israel, who look unto other gods and flagons of wine. So I brought her to me for 15 pieces of silver, and for a homer barley and a half omer barley. And I said unto her, thou shalt abide for me many days. Thou shalt not play the harlot, and thou shalt not be for another man, so will I be for thee. So the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without teraphim. Now, teraphim comes from the Hebrew word for ir, which means glory. So it is saying that Israel will be without glory. Afterward, the children of Israel return, and seek the Most High their God, and David their king, and shall fear the Most High and his goodness in the latter days. So this right here is a prophecy given in the time of the era of Hosea, the prophet, who prophesied actually a little before Isaiah, and he's saying that Israel shall abide many days without a king, without glory, without sacrifice, without a prince. So let that be noted and understood, that the glory of Israel is going to be stopped for a limited time. So now, when you go, brothers and sisters, into the book of the Apocrypha, it speaks about how Antiochus Epiphanes had the sacrifices stopped. Now, let's go, if we will, to the book of Daniel chapter 8, so we can gain some understanding concerning this kind of matter. And this, as stated, brothers and sisters, is not to make anybody feel offended or hurt or disrespect. I'm open to constructive criticism, but it's been recently noted that there are some, even though you got Israelites, you may say teaming up, despite differences in understanding, to go against the whole Kemet thing, you still got Israelites trying to sit there and debate between messianics and non-messianics. So now it's time to go there. Okay, let's go to Daniel chapter 8, if you will. Verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So what's being stated right here, this little horn that is talking about is speaking about Antiochus Epiphanes, or that's to say Antiochus IV. And when you go in your own time in the Apocrypha, he actually stopped the sacrifices from being done within the nation of Israel for that particular time in which he was in. It says by reason of transgression, meaning that due to the transgressions of Israel, the Most High had this particular sacrifice stopped, ceased for that moment. So that's what it's talking about right there in that aspect. So one of the things to be noted is that, and the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground. So what is the truth when you read it in the scriptures? Let's go to the book of Tehillim, or Psalms, chapter 119, verse 142. So that way we can understand when it says it cast down the truth to the ground. Let's see what it's talking about. Psalms chapter 119, verse 142. And here is what we read, brothers and sisters. It says the following. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. So the law of the Most High, which is the Torah, is the truth. So when it says about this horn, which is Antiochus Epiphanes, when it says he cast the truth down to the ground, he cast the law down to the ground. And so therefore you don't have to abide by the law no more. We don't have to sit there and keep those laws and those statutes and those commandments anymore. We have a new thing that he brought about. So let's read, brothers and sisters, and gain some understanding. Let's go, if you will, to the book of Ezekiel. We are in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 43, so we can gain some understanding concerning this kind of matter. Ezekiel, or Yechezkel, chapter 43, we're going to start in verse 18. And he said unto me, Son of man, thus saith the Lord God, these are the ordinances of the altar, in a day when they shall make it, to offer burnt offerings thereon, and to sprinkle blood thereon. And thou shalt give it to the priests, the Levites, that be of the seed of Zadok, teach, which approach unto me, to minister unto me, saith the Lord God, a young bullock for a sin offering. So right here, we see that when Israel will be reestablished in the future, that there will be priests that will be doing offerings for sin offerings, that they will be offering sin offerings. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 23. And they, speaking of the priests, and they shall teach my people the difference between the holy and profane, and cause them to discern between the unclean and the clean. So let that be noted and understood. So Ezekiel chapter 40 to Ezekiel chapter 48 is talking about the restoration of Israel in the future. That day has not come to pass yet. It talks about the rebuilding of the temple. It talks about the priesthood being established. It talks about the tribes of Israel being put back in their land. All of this happening after Ezekiel 36, which speaks about the destruction of Esau. Ezekiel 37 speaks about the dry bones of Israel becoming an army and having sinew upon them and breath within them and becoming the nation that the Most High wants Israel to be. Then we read about the destruction of some Hamites nations and some Japhite nations when you go to Ezekiel chapter 38 and Ezekiel chapter 39, when it speaks about Meshach and Tubal and so forth and so on. Then when you go to Ezekiel chapter 40 all the way to Ezekiel chapter 48, that day has not come to pass yet. Edom is still in the land. Israel is not in their land. So when they're saying that this sacrifice was done at Calvary on Golgotha in reference with Yahshua for the atonement of Israel's sins, that is not the case. Because when Israel returns back to the land, Israel will still be doing offerings in reference with sin offerings. And that's right here in the scriptures. So let that be noted and understood. Time and place to know certain things. All right, brothers and sisters? Now, let's go, if we will, brothers and sisters, to Jeremiah chapter. We're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 6, if we will. Jeremiah, the 6th chapter. We're going to start in verse 16 so we can gain some understanding concerning this kind of matter. And it reads as follows. Thus saith the Most High, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where the good way is, and walk therein. And ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. So in the book of Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16, it says, stand in the ways and see and ask for the old paths. Jeremiah right here is saying the Israelites in his day and time to look to the old ways, to the old paths, to the ways of your ancestors. All right. So in light of that, let's go, if you will, to Deuteronomy chapter 30. So that way we can gain some understanding concerning this kind of matter right here. We are in Deuteronomy, or Devarim, chapter 30. We're going to start in verse 1. It shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, that thou shalt call them to mind among the nations, where the Most High thy King have driven thee. Brothers and sisters who are Israelites, I ask, if Yahshua, Yahushua, Yahushua, or who they call Jesus, if he was the atonement for Israel's sins, then why did the curses that we read in Deuteronomy 28 happen even after the death of Yahshua?